There we go. So, the next guest we got in here, actually it's a little bit of a challenge because a lot of people think that this might be a company from the US or at least somewhere from the UK or, I don't know, Australia, Canada, whatever. Actually, it's a German company. That also means it's quite a bit of a challenge how we're going to pronounce it right now. Because in German, it would be G-Data. But a lot of people actually say it's G-Data. So that's also a little bit of a challenge now for Tim, because Tim is a security evangelist. So are you the high priest of the big church of antivirus, therefore?
Some people would like to call me that. The thing that I learned from that is I should not wear a black shirt with a white T-shirt underneath because it's going to look like, But anyway, yeah, G-Data would be the international version, but in Germany we pretty much all say G-Data.
Yeah. So you guys are around for 30 years right now, right?
Yeah, that's right. The company was founded in 1985, and we are the company that developed one of the first, if not the first, antivirus software that was commercially available. Back then it was for the Atari ST.
Exactly.
But since then I heard that the demand for Atari ST software has somewhat fallen off. So obviously, we're focusing on Windows platform, the Macintosh platform, and mobile platforms as well.
So when you look at what is a security evangelist doing? Let's just define your job and your position first.
Well, what my job is precisely what we're doing right here. Talking to a lot of people, a lot of cool people, going to trade shows, to conferences, give a whole lot of talks, and obviously read a whole lot of stuff to just keep up to speed with what's currently the hot topic in terms of security, obviously.
That was my next question, actually. So what's the hot topic? Is it ransomware? Is it that we have this kind of weird malware, Exactly, that was the one that just got sent to the iPhones, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you mentioned ransomware. Yes, ransomware is a problem, but ransomware is primarily it's very loud, very noisy. It's pretty much obvious right from the get-go what's going on. But all the other malware that has been around for basically forever is still there. The only difference between the two is ransomware is way more obvious, but it uses the same infection vectors as all the malware that has been around since forever.
And then there's recent one on the iPhone. It was called Pegasus, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this spyware for iOS.
Almost like a Trojan horse, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you remember a couple of months back, I think last year there was this $1 million bug bounty for this iOS flaw. And apparently it turned out, there's got to be a buyer for this. And I guess that's also what happened here. It's speculative, of course, but I mean, nobody would tell me this, but I have a suspicion that this is the case.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. I mean, besides all these viruses that are out there, and with somehow, especially with this ransomware, and huge criminal organizations that are behind this.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the type of organization that's behind ransomware is pretty much classical software distribution like you would find with Microsoft, for instance, or with any other of the major distributors out there. You have discounts there, you have margins, you have subcontractors who all do their thing, like distribution of the malware, laundering of Bitcoin, all that. And ransomware, as we got to know a couple of weeks back, is or has been created as a proof of concept for home automation, thermostats in particular. So thinking back like roughly a year as well, there was one tweet online that says, well, #tweet from the future, my thermostat has ransomware and it demands $300, otherwise it's going to lock the temperature at 99 degrees. And about a year or 2 years later, that's exactly where we're at. So it has not appeared in the wild yet, as far as I know, but this is what we're basically looking at right now.
The Internet of Terror.
Yeah, you said that.
Well, somehow it's kind of weird, right? I mean, we're connecting more and more devices, and less people are actually giving a bird about how they're going to secure it.
Yeah,
and the more different platforms and devices are getting connected with each other, having a chance over machine-to-machine communication to exchange data.
That's right.
The more complicated it's going to get. So actually, that must be perfect for you guys, right? Because the market for you guys is just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've looked around in a lot of the halls around here at IFA, and a lot of the stuff that you see is about home automation and connected homes and smart homes and whatnot. And there's a ton of devices out there that do absolutely cool things. Like you can see who's coming into your driveway with a car and have the license plate read out and say, okay, that's someone I know and that's someone that I don't know. Right. Or you can have video surveillance for your home. So you just pull out your tablet, like right here and right now, and see, what your cat is doing at home. So that's a lot of cool things that can be done with this technology. Thing is, the market is incredibly fast. So everybody needs to come out with his or her product as soon as possible. And in a lot of cases, sadly, security just falls by the wayside. There's one case I read about this week, actually, with a connected power socket. Just something that you plug into a wall, and that you can remote control with your smartphone over Wi-Fi. Problem was this particular device. I'm not going to name any vendors though, but the problem with that particular device was there was no encryption. There was a bit of encoding, but no encryption, and basically anyone who had the device's MAC address could do weird things with it.
The reason why I was just talking about the huge criminal organization behind this. The big news last week. Yeah, it was last week when we've had this Pegasus little spyware, Trojan horse, however you want to define this, from this company in Israel that was actually selling this to regimes. Well, that's not a criminal organization, but somehow I think they are criminals. How can you be, as a software developer, sending such spyware to regimes where did they do this? I think they also did this in Venezuela or Mexico, into the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, to all these regressive regimes over there.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a problem.
That's really you could call this a political problem, but that's something that I personally have no real insight into. I just see what's happening right now, and vulnerabilities in software have been traded for years for substantial amounts of money, obviously. And from what I read about this iOS spyware, there were 3 0-day vulnerabilities in iOS, and from that, I guess, developing this type of malware for iOS has cost the developers of that malware quite a substantial amount of money.
Oh, I bet.
We're in the 7 digits here, I would guess.
Wow. So basically, like they were buying those exploits and 0-day leak codes from people who discovered them, that weren't revealing them, or is it just the amount of money and the amount of the workforce that you need to go through the code of iOS and to figure that out?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, Apple has, thankfully, we have to say, introduced a bug bounty program lately, which will probably contribute to security researchers going through a responsible disclosure process if they come across vulnerabilities in iOS.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely the right way to go here. So whatever vulnerabilities have been found in iOS and are disclosed responsibly to Apple, those can't be used then by organizations that don't have really have the purest intentions, if you want to call it.
So if you look at this overall market and the different varieties of threats that are out there, is there anything that really pops out somehow where you think, oh my God, this might be a problem? A couple of years ago, we had the Stuxnet, this kind of worm that was supposed to, I don't know, I think they built it. It was supposed to get into atomic plants in Iran, right?
Yeah, that's right. That was a very, very specialized piece of malware that only effectively did something on a very specific hardware configuration. And we might be looking at similar scenarios, a couple of years down the line, where systems that are connected to the internet, IoT, where we have systems that are connected to the internet, and on the other hand, we have people who try to break into those systems to, inflict some sort of damage, and that's something that we start to see right now. I mean, if you go to the internet and use the correct websites, you can find the web interfaces for air conditioning systems. That's by the way how Target was hacked last year. There was one user account from a contractor that was compromised, and the attackers then used those credentials to sneak their way into the production environment via the air conditioning system. And that's something that I think we are going to see in the future as well, because with machine-to-machine communication, with IoT and all those interconnected devices like home automation, cars, you name them, you have the opportunity to go into network environments and try to control hardware, try to control devices that initially were never designed to be online.
Yeah.
Like industrial hardware. A couple of years back, nobody thought about the internet. Nobody, nobody gave a thought about it. Now, all of a sudden, quote unquote, we have the internet, and people connect their hardware to the internet, but the underlying infrastructure was never designed with that in mind. And retrofitting security in that kind of system is difficult. Let's put it that way. And by now we are seeing a growing awareness of this problem. But security needs to be built into those devices, whether it's consumer hardware or industrial hardware. Security needs to build into those types of devices from the beginning. So this is not something that you can, sprinkle on top of your product once it's completed and ready to roll out. It needs to be implemented right from the start, and that's where one of the issues is that we have at the moment, because everybody wants to go to the market as quickly as possible and bring out, whatever new gadget or device. And as I said, security oftentimes just falls by the wayside, or gets implemented in a fashion that makes it susceptible to attacks. And that's exactly the scenario we're looking at right now. We see proofs of concept for ransomware for thermostats at home. Last year there was one particular model of smart fridge from one of the vendors that's present at IFA, which I'm also not going to name. I
think I know this company.
that could potentially go blabby with your email account. So think a couple of years back, if you had told anyone 5 years ago, well, I got my email compromised because someone attacked my fridge, you probably would have been sent to a mental institution right then. But now this is really a reality. It's not something that we currently see in the wild being applied on a broad scale, but as soon as a certain platform takes hold, that's the point where a platform becomes interesting as a target for criminals.
Yeah. We have some questions here in our chat room, and especially regarding operating systems. Is there anything where you would say, okay, this is less vulnerable than the other? Someone was specifically asking for Chrome OS, what you think about Chrome OS in terms of security of that platform.
Sure. I mean, the main question that everything comes down to eventually is how widespread is a certain platform, whether it's Chrome OS or iOS or Windows or Linux, you name them.
Yeah.
As soon as a certain platform is very widespread, then that's the point where it becomes interesting for an attacker. You know, a platform of any nature could be, wide open and completely vulnerable, but nobody cares about it because nobody's using it. So as soon as any platform is used by a certain number of people, people start looking into possibilities to, profit from vulnerabilities. We've seen this in Mac OS, for instance. For years, Mac users have been leaning back smugly saying, well, there is no malware for Mac OS. And yeah, the last 2 years have seen the advent of ransomware for Mac OS as well. So that shows that's, once a platform has reached a critical mass, people are going to start looking at it and try and find vulnerabilities. So
you just can't say. I mean, that's a good point. What you just mentioned regarding macOS. Was it in general? I mean, if I'm just using a plain macOS system and I connect it to the internet next to a plain Windows 10 system, is it like that the macOS system would be more secure for specific time range until someone sniffed that IP with, I don't know, any kind of IP range sniffer and figured out, oh, look at this. Seems like open.
It depends on what you're actually doing. If you just leave the machines there as they are and, without clicking anything or typing anything, then probably not much is going to happen, but then that's kind of boring as well, because you want to use your computer after all, don't you?
Sure. That's for sure. When you look at all these additional devices that we got into our lives, and I mean, we've been talking about the Internet of Things right now, but still each and every year we're selling 1.4, 1.5 billion smartphones into these markets. Add another 150 million tablets. We're getting very close to 2 billion additional mobile devices each and every year.
True.
That must be heaven for someone who is doing malware, ransomware, spyware, or whatever.
Sure. I mean, when I look at all the products that are around here at IFA, a lot of those products are actually controlled with your tablet or your smartphone. And if I put myself into the position of a malware author or someone who wants to do damage in some way, shape, or form, then I would try and attack the apps that control certain bits of hardware to find out, okay, there's a home automation system which has a bunch of cameras hooked up to it. Let's see if there's anybody at home. Okay, can I find out the address where those cameras are located? And are there any nice things around that might
be
worth
search
taking?
Engines for this, right?
Yeah, there are search engines for that, and I mean, I've seen these. I've seen cameras that are. I mean, obviously there are webcams. When you look for webcams on that particular website, there are those that are. Have a commercial background, let's call it that, and then there's also cameras that you find that are pointed towards a 3D printer. If you're a maker, tinkerer, you want to see what your current print is doing, that's fine. But I've also seen cameras, pointing into garages, living rooms. Actually, I was able to snapshot one of those webcams where someone was in a room looking directly at the camera. So, that's kind of creepy, isn't it?
It is creepy.
And that's one of the problems. A lot of those cameras are designed to work out of the box. Just like, a lot of hardware that you have for home automation, the manufacturers have a point in wanting the stuff to work out of the box. Just take it out, plug it in, it's working. And at that point, people usually stop, fiddling around with it, because it's working. Never change a running system, so the system is running, therefore I'm not going to touch it anymore. Problem is, there's no password protection on some of those devices, or the passwords are well documented.
Yeah.
And if you hook up one of those cameras, you know, your baby phone, baby surveillance cameras to the web, then you go to your trusted search engine, see, you know, if any of those devices are connected to the web in a certain geographical location, and you know, someone could be, you know, spying on your pets or your kids, you know, or just watch what your cat is doing right now, you know, without entering any passwords at all. So, you know, you see what the problem is here. Right. So, configuration is one of the really big issues here, and we put a lot of stuff into our networks that we don't have the foggiest idea about what they actually do.
Absolutely. So, if you guys want to make sure that your mobile device or your laptop or your desktop or whatever you're using is securely connected to the internet, you might want to check out the solutions of G-Data or G-Data. They have versions available for Android, a mobile security suite, and you can also download the antivirus software for Windows. Is there also a macOS version?
There is, yes.
There you go. Even for macOS, you see, it's also happening over there. Tim, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a quick break of about 5 minutes, and then we are going back into the... That's perfect. Talking about the smart home. Cheers. See you in a bit.
Thanks for having me.